Matt, thank you for joining us today. In about a minute, tell us about yourself and why you are running for office.
Well, thank you for having me, Elizabeth. I'm not a Washington politician. I am a husband, a proud father, and a small businessman. I actually opened my first business in the insurance and financial industry here in Tulsa by actually selling the truck that my parents bought me when I was in high school and renting a car until I could actually afford to buy my own. And today I'm actually one of the top 40 independent investment planners in the country for my broker-dealer, which is actually the largest network of independent financial advisors in the country. The main reason I decided to run is because we can't afford any more of Senator Inhofe's wasteful spending. He's voted for more debt and more spending than anyone in the history of the state of Oklahoma. I'll put a stop to it. I've pledged term limits, and the reason that that's important is because you go to Washington with a spirit of service rather than worrying about fundraising for your next big election.
All right, thank you very much. And we have a series of questions for you. You have 5 minutes to answer those.
Sure.
The first question here, as the U.S. ramps up operations against militants in Iraq and Syria, what do you think should be the role of our armed forces in combating ISIS and other foreign terrorist organizations?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to note that you're talking to somebody who actually called for action against Syria a year ago. After Assad used chemical weapons against his own people. The reason that I said that we needed to do that was because they posed an imminent threat to Israel. Israel was supporting it. The president had gone to Congress and asked for approval to take action. I don't think he necessarily needed that explicit approval, so I blame President Obama for his inaction. I also blame Senator Inhofe because he completely opposed action a year ago. And now we're dealing with a much more complex situation because what it created was a vacuum of anti-Assad forces that now we know as ISIS or ISIL. Now it's a real problem. We're going to have to rely on our generals on the ground. It's a fluid situation that is going to require a combination of airstrikes coupled with, I don't know who these moderate forces are inside of Syria, and I can't say that I actually trust that. And I don't know whose boots are going to be on the ground. So at this point, there are a lot of unknown questions. There are certainly more questions than there are answers.
Okay. What plans do you have to address federal budget deficits and also the national debt?
Yeah, that's a big one because that's a national crisis. We have a $17 trillion national debt. And as I said in my opening, Senator Inhofe has voted for more spending and more debt than anyone in the history of the state of Oklahoma, by far. Most people don't realize that. And I'm going to put a stop to it. That's why as a businessman, I have actually proposed to put incentives in place where we would freeze automatic pay raises for members of Congress until the federal budget is balanced. I hate to answer a question with another question, but this is kind of rhetorical. What reason do these members of Congress have to work together to solve our debt crisis if they can just sit on their hands with constant gridlock and see their pay raise go up regardless of success or failure? In the private business community, if you don't do your job properly, you don't get rewarded. That's just common sense. We need to stop the wasteful spending. On my website at mattforoklahoma.com, I have a 3-point debt reduction plan that deals with banning earmarks, permanently banning earmarks, what I just described with respect to freezing automatic pay raises for members of Congress.
Okay, next question. How would you ensure that Social Security and Medicare remain viable for future generations?
Yes, well, those are two very vastly different animals. Social Security isn't nearly as big of a problem as Medicare is because Social Security is both part of the federal budget and it is also insured by a trust fund, the so-called lockbox. So if Social Security, if payroll receipts are short in one particular year, then it still gets paid if there's trillions of dollars in surplus. On the other hand, if you just look at it as part of the budget, then it's no different than, say, the defense budget. You can't argue that there's any kind of a shortfall in Social Security just because there's a shortfall in payroll taxes. Medicare, on the other hand, we do have a big problem, and we're going to have to take control of the underlying soaring cost of medical care in our system. We have to do it in a number of ways. Transparency in the system. When was the last time you went to your doctor and before they put a needle in your arm, you said, wait a minute, how much does that cost? Right? And by the way, don't bother asking because they don't know. So we need more transparency in this system, and we need to identify the wasteful procedures.
Thank you for your thoughts, Matt Silverstein.
Thank you so
very
much.
much for being here.
I appreciate you.